And we're putting together Land Launch 2025, well, because we want you to have clarity on moving forward in 2025. So 3 days of holiday marketing. We had Michael Robertson yesterday, showed us a lot of interesting stuff on how he pulls his list that a lot of people overlook, don't put in the time to do so. And that's why I think, Michael, you said you get was it a lead for every, or a deal for every few hundred? What was that again? What was the number?
Yeah, we mail our letter many times when they get their tax bill, and it was one deal out of every 272 pieces of mail.
There you go. There you go. Okay. So have a watch at that. Michael is awesome. Love you, Michael. Thank you for doing that yesterday. Today we have my good friend Jaren. Jaren, I'm gonna let Jaren introduce himself. Then I'll quickly introduce Jaren. I'm not here. Hey, Jaren. Jaren is one of these guys that also goes down these rabbit holes. I swear. Jaren did. I'm gonna have to tell everybody. Jaren did this review for RE Tipster for Pebble, and like Jaren knew Pebble probably better than I did. He it took a while, and he went through all the pain to put that together. So Jaren does his homework and he does his research. So I'm super excited to have him here to talk about texting. Now tomorrow we're gonna have Alicia Jarrett, another incredible person in the space. You guys, I mean, she needs no introduction. You've seen her around. So we'll focus on her tomorrow. But today is Jaren. All right. Well, Jaren, welcome. How you doing?
Doing well, man. Sorry for having a new face on everybody. I got into a fight with a razor yesterday and lost, so I lost my goatee, but it'll come back. Thing about hair is that.
That's
Yeah,
well,
I'm happy to be here, man. Excited.
yeah.
Excited and honored.
Well, Jaren, just so that everybody knows, give us a little background about yourself, like a 30-second thing about yourself, how you got into land and what were you doing before land and all of this.
Yeah, so I got started in real estate by getting married really early on. I was 2 days into being 20, and I found out in life, once you get married, there are these pesky things called bills that you have to solve for. So I was aggressively trying to figure out how to make money without a college degree. I was a college dropout that went and pursued a bunch of nonprofit work early on in my like 18, 19 years, I guess you could say. And from there, I had a friend, a core group of friends actually, that used their life inheritance to buy into a guru program that convinced them to go and door knock pre-foreclosures in the San Francisco Bay Area. I quit my stable job that I had just convinced the boss to hire me with no college degree on. I was a month in, and I left that day and started door knocking pre-foreclosures in the ghettos of the San Francisco Bay Area that day, and learned a lot. We ended up kind of connecting with an unethical kind of fix and flipper where I'll spare details, but didn't get paid, even though I was the number one like salesperson or converter or whatever. While there, I started a blog called Real Estate Catalyst, where I made a promo about Bigger Pockets and Seth Williams and a bunch of people. Got on their radar, ended up working for Bigger Pockets for about a 4-month stint as a kind of a temporary fill-in way back in the day when it was just Brandon Turner and Josh Torkin and a couple of developers. And from there, I thought I was at this intersection where I was like, well, I got to pick content or I got to pick real estate. And so I decided to get my real estate license and moved from San Francisco Bay Area to Indianapolis, because at the time, Indianapolis was blowing up on Bigger Pockets. And I ended up connecting with somebody who was a house wholesaler and who was looking to scale his operation, Brett Snodgrass, Simple Wholesaling. He ended up hiring me to do content stuff. So half my time there, I was like helping do like podcasting and other things. And then I switched to the deal side and I was the disposition manager and kind of got the main, I guess, bulk of my training there. I learned how to read a purchase agreement. I was licensed and he was a managing broker. So I had access to MLS and, I just learned a ton. I was responsible by the time I left. It was my job to make sure that we sold at least 25 to 35 properties a month on average. So We learned a ton there, but I started doing so. I didn't want to be direct competition to Brett because I'm one of these weird guys that actually never wanted to be an entrepreneur. I like a full-fledged. I'm kind of more of a entrepreneur, I guess that you could say, where I'm totally kind of wired and happy to be on somebody else's team and help blow up their vision and all that stuff. But in the long run, I guess it wasn't really in the cards. But at the time, I was like, hey, where can I use my wholesaling skills and transition into some kind of way to make some supplemental money while not ever being in direct competition to simple wholesaling? And we interviewed a bunch of land guys. Funny enough, if anybody knows who Jack Bosch is, kind of the OG, the guy that kind of initiated this whole like land investing online industry that we're in. Funny enough, he actually came years ago to Indianapolis, and I drove him around to random dilapidated houses for an entire day and like spent an entire day with him and watched his presentation on land. And me and Seth from way back in the day were friends. We were in a mastermind group where we were meeting every other week with some other like kind of content creators in real estate. And so the long and short of it is I started doing land partnering with Brett, and then slowly things kind of shifted on his side. He wanted to kind of address some things, lower some overhead, and ventured out on my own into land. And then while I was there, I was still trying to figure out the kinks. Ended up doing well, but it was nice to have some cash flow or to solve for some cash flow because I wasn't doing terms, I was doing straight cash. Ended up working with Seth Williams over at RE Tipster. He said, hey, content, land, you're very unique. Why don't you come work for RE Tipster? And so I worked for RE Tipster for 3.5 years while growing my land business on the side. And then about, 3 years ago at this stage, transitioned out into kind of coaching full time and then scaling my land operation. And got mad love for Seth. I owe Seth everything. So there's a book called The 48 Laws of Power. Law number 1 is you never outshine your master. Like I owe Seth everything. So if you guys never heard of RE Tipster, I've seen him in the trenches. I've seen him behind the scenes without a recorded screen being on or whatever. And I tell you, all my life, that guy is the real deal. I have seen him choose integrity and choose the high way when he had legitimate proof of people bad mouthing him or whatever. Like that guy cannot get a higher endorsement from me. So
I agree about Seth. I think Seth has been an integral part in a lot of people land investors' lives, and certainly with Pebble, we would not be here without Seth. Seth is the one that got me started. So also owe Seth over at RE Tipster a huge thank you. So make sure you guys check out his blog and all the content. I'm sure you've seen it. Wonderful stuff on there. Okay, well, today is day 2, texting tidings, texting for low cost and high rewards. We're going to be talking to Jaren about that. Actually, Jaren's going to walk us through. Let me go to, and the promise here. So like yesterday, the promise here is to really make sure you have clarity. And I mentioned this yesterday, right? A lot of us don't get started because we just don't have clarity. We don't know what the next steps are. We don't know what it looks like. And this is the whole point of this. Although it's only an hour, we only have a short hour together, and now only 45 minutes left. We're going to try our best to get Jaren to share a screen, to explain things, because that'll allow us to take that next step. And sometimes it's as easy as that, to be able to just look over somebody's shoulder. Now, we are very privileged today because we have somebody by the name of Michael Bartolome here joining us as well. He's just hanging out in the background. Michael is part of the team over at Launch Control. So, Michael, please say hi.
Hey everyone, excited to be here. Yeah, I was chatting with Jesse, chatting with Jaren. They told me that they had this planned, and I said, well, tag me in if you need me. I'm happy to answer any questions specific to the software side of things, and let these two handle the coaching and processes part of it because they're the experts.
Awesome. Well, Michael, it's awesome to have you hanging out here. I don't know if there's going to be questions your way. Speaking about questions, okay, guys, the expectation for you today is to take action. This is really for you, okay? So ask, share, and engage. Yesterday was great to see you guys sharing stuff about list sources and all this, and throw your questions. Do the same. Throw your questions on here. Jaren should be able to answer it. If he needs to tag Michael in, great. If I can jump in, I will as well. Save any feature requests or account support for outside the workshop. Let's not take up anybody's time about specific issues or features that you want to see. We have a direct email for that. That's hello@pebblerei.com. All right, stick around to the end. Yes, yesterday I did talk about claiming your bonuses, your free book. I didn't really talk much about David Jennings and his book Systemology, but that's really all on building SOPs and processes in place. Again, I mentioned that's the #1 best-selling book under outsourcing in Amazon. So he's going to send it out, a physical copy out from his garage in Australia. We've got mailing credits, $250 worth of mailing credits to get access to Pebble for the entire month. And I've got another surprise that I did not mention yesterday. So stick to the end. I'm going to make sure you guys know more about that, because I know you guys love learning, you guys love absorbing, you guys love surprises. So we're going to jump right into it. Jaren, let's do it. Let's talk about texting. Why you love texting. Walk us through that. I'm going to let you share your screen. Walk us through what that all looks like. Fill in whatever you'd like to fill in. Then we're going to jump into Pebble briefly, because we already jumped into Pebble yesterday. We're going to just talk about how does a deal come into Pebble and what that workflow might look like in your eyes, okay? So I'm going to stop my screen share. Jaren?
And Jesse, can you do me a favor?
Yep.
Because I have a tendency to run long, right about maybe 10-ish minutes
Yep.
before we start transitioning. Can you give me a heads up either by message or set a time
Yeah.
or whatever?
Probably in about 25 minutes. I'll give you about 25 minutes for now, and then we'll transition over to my screen after.
Cool. Just holler at me so I know when to
Will
like
do.
we're
Yeah.
off.
Love
Awesome,
it.
guys. Well, so I don't really have, I'm going to share my screen here in a minute because I want to walk you through my stats. But before I do all that, I kind of want to address why texting. And I want to kind of cross compare texting to direct mail to cold calling and so on and so forth. So I'm in a very unique position because at the Maverick Society, we train our members on how to get deals and get actual results in the land business. A lot of times, like, I don't know if coaching is the right thing, the right term for what I do. I pretty much provide like on-the-job training and support and resources. We really want to move in the direction for our community where we have kind of like a business in a box model where it's plug and play. The past things have been pretty straightforward. The COVID years have been great for everybody. Direct mail has always been kind of the default go-to, but perpetually it's become more and more expensive, right? When I first got started at Simple Wholesaling, I think the cost of a letter was something like 38 cents a letter. Whereas these days, it's somewhere between 70 cents and $1. And it was actually Jesse that told me in passing at a conference we were both at, on average, the last several years, the cost of a stamp has gone up on average twice. And with the rising cost of inflation and all the things that are happening in the world, it's not going to change. It's going to continue to get more and more expensive. I love direct mail. Again, it saddens me in some ways to kind of part ways because I have made so many videos and have made so much content, and I've really, kind of dedicated some strategic ways to stand out from the crowd. And I do think that there is a place for direct mail, but I think it's better served as a sniper, not as a shotgun. When there was, I want to take us back 2 years ago, the end of 2022, beginning of 2023. If we were to take a kind of a pulse on what was happening in land, a lot of people were starting to text. It was kind of becoming the default way to go about things. But then in March of 2023, there was a launch control fiasco, a scare. And if you guys want to know more about that, Michael has talked at length with Seth Williams, as well as me, concerning those things and kind of sitting at bay the fears associated with that. But when, my wife had shifted from direct mail to texting, so we have kind of two different land businesses. That's a little bit weird, but we have our legacy land business called I Buy Land, which is what we started in 2016, 2017, that I was first in the trenches of, and then throughout the years, my wife has now kind of taken over as the girl boss. She kind of runs the show there. And then as of September 4th, I started a new land business because I needed a science lab that I could experiment in and get cutting edge practices and bring it back to Land Maverick Society. Okay. So my wife in I Buy Land has been texting probably even before that, probably for a year before March of 23, when that scare happened. When that scare happened, the vast majority of the industry just was like, oh, texting doesn't work anymore. And they just jumped off and they either moved to cold calling in-house using a agency or whatever. We just shifted to a different platform. So we waited until launch control figured itself out. And we went to a competitor called Smarter Contact. Both me and my wife prefer launch control. She has talks about moving things back, but she has her whole infrastructure in there and team and lots of leads and so on and so forth. So it's a little bit of a harder shift, but why do I like launch control is because they let me sleep better at night. They make you do annoying things. And I'll say in front of Michael, because, I'm honest here. They make you sit there, and when you send out batches, you have to manually click 150 times. You can't call from the same number that you're texting from. You have to do all these things in order to be compliant. And that, from an educator standpoint and from high level standpoint, it makes me sleep better at night because I know that if texting is still a viable channel, it's going to be working through launch control, because as a North Star principal, they do everything that they need to do in order to kiss the ring and be as compliant as humanly possible. Still understanding the game, still understanding like, hey, we're using texting as a cold outreach vehicle or medium. They're all good with that. They understand investors, but they are kind of the in between the powers that be in terms of like approvals and phone carriers and all that stuff, and then understanding us as investors. And they, again, some of the stuff is a little bit clunky or whatever, but I know for sure that if texting goes away, launch control has to go away. So, and whereas other platforms, even Smarter Contact, the one that my wife uses, it's a free for all. They can do whatever the heck, and they could be liable to being sued and a bunch of stuff. So I'm very much pro launch control, and I've really been seeing some crazy results with not only our side of things, but also our members. So going back to kind of marketing channels, and then I'll dive into kind of Zion and our stats and all that stuff within launch control. I was faced with starting this new land business. Like, okay, what is going to be the default go-to channel? And I really was between texting and cold calling. I do not like using third-party agencies. Some of these agencies are some of my dearest friends, and I bless them and I'm all for them, but agencies are expensive and they limit control. So when I say agencies, if you hire a third party to go and cold call for you or to facilitate marketing for you, it's very difficult for you to control the talk track and how that person who's the front end of the prospect, how they're navigating the conversation. I think it's actually only Supercharge offers that I'm aware of that by default provides the recordings of the seller calls with the outbound cold callers. The vast majority of the others that are out there, they don't even do that. And if I say, yeah, for the right price, if I read a note, it says, yeah, for the right price, would I sell? I would sell for the right price. Depending on tone and context, that can mean two very different things. So you got to have tone, you got to have control. I ended up going the Smarter Contact. Ended up going the launch control route and texting, and I was very pleasantly surprised that I did. Very happy with that direction, because me and my business partner for this new land business, we went to Lake Tahoe of all places. He's from California, and we just posted up in an Airbnb with a whiteboard and fleshed out this incredible workflow that really made from start to finish, the process very streamlined and kind of solved a lot of people's angst or reservations or issues that they commonly see in texting. So high level, I'm gonna walk you through all that stuff, but just in my land business alone, again, we started September 4th, hired 2 virtual staff members that are based in the Philippines. Both of them had prior land experience, but our acquisition manager, who's on the phones, had no sales training. So she was just somebody who controlled launch control for a prior company. So no formal training on sales or acquisitions or whatever. Within 2 months, actually, I'll share my screen because I try to be all fancy for you guys here.
Yeah, that'd be great. And by the way, I
Yeah.
just want to stress one thing here. Jaren just explained and gave context here, because I think there was a lot of the fuzziness revolving around texting. So Jaren, thanks for giving us the backstory for that.
And to sum it all up, launch control about maybe 2 months in of that scare in March was back to business as usual. There are some compliance things, some keywords and so on and so forth that are a little bit different, but back to business as usual, baby. So you guys are in good hands there. Now you do need to be creative on like the messaging and all that stuff, but I digress. So we sent out a total of 19,477 text via launch control over September and November, the first week of November. Out of that, we got a total response back of 2,400. From there, so let me take a step back. I look at texting, I kind of distill down or bucket the prospects, leads, responses as like 3 different buckets. We have total responses, we have prospects, and then we have leads. So what you are seeing here is we sent out just shy of 20,000 texts from the lowest tier of launch control. Responses are just that, just anybody and everybody, screw you, go, the property sold, yeah, I'm interested, all those guys. Then we did decipher through kind of our workflow and our quick replies and stuff, who's a response. We distill it into 3 personas. So we only have 3 categories of quick reply text, which I will, so you guys get a visual of what I'm talking about. If somebody says no thanks, right, I can come down here, sorry, my camera's in the way, and I can go quick replies. And these filters, I got initial messaging, or further screening is how we use it for other people now, because this is when we started in our account. So further screening, positive personas, and negative personas. If they are a positive persona, meaning they are remotely open to selling in any form or fashion, we then graduate them from launch control and push them to Pebble. And then when in Pebble, we go through a land.id check, so 6-step checklist in land.id, make sure that the property is viable and justifies a qualification call. We then move to the phones as quickly as possible at a very aggressive outreach, 3 triple dials 3 times a day, and is kind of our goal here. And once we talk to them and we explain our business model, now you got to use a lot of finesse and you got to like get this talk track down correctly. But a hill that is, for me, worth dying on, because I've seen it not only in my business, but also in the results of the members of our community, you have to qualify the leads. Like I am so convinced of this. I'm gonna try to keep this down to like 5 minutes or so, but here's the truth. Every single business is rooted in a value exchange where the customer perceives the value that you're giving them as higher than the dollar amount they're willing to pay for it. That's literally the foundations of like pricing 101. You give value, they pay something that is less than the value they're receiving, okay? So you have no viable business. I can't say it enough. You have no viable business as a land investor unless you are giving value. So if you understand that, then you understand that not every single person you talk to is your customer. Can you add value with what the value proposition that you have to bring to the table? Can you give value to every single person that's out there? Of course not. But for the right person, you are an easy button that they can press, and within 3 to 6 weeks, they can get tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash and have the easiest real estate transaction, get the property out of their hair, and it's great. But the vast majority of landowners, even willing to sell, are not that person that can benefit from your service. And it's kind of weird because we give money in our business, but the discount they're willing to take is actually the price they're willing to pay in exchange for your value. So you got to really shift that. There's a lot of predatorial mindsets as it comes to leads for some reason. They're like, hey, how can I like browbeat this person, get the cheapest deal possible? It's like totally weird. That's like not how you want to do it. You want to come in with the mindset of how can I add value, right? So on this call, so everything up here until qualification call is a prospect. On the qualification call, we let them know who we are and essentially say in some form or fashion, hey, are you open to an offer that's lower than market value? And if so, then I'll present one. If not, then we'll part ways. If they say yes in some form or fashion, I'm not going to give the property away, but for the right price, I'd give it to you. I'd entertain your offer. Then they graduate from a prospect to a lead. So the goal, everything we're doing in launch control is trying to get to a big pile of qualified leads at this stage. Now it's justified for aggressive follow-up, nurturing, comps, due diligence, all that stuff. So that is kind of the high and the low of it. And getting back to here, so responses, we had 2,400 responses, 340 prospects. So you can consider anytime it was pushed out of launch control into Pebble, it was somebody who was it was a positive persona, somebody who was remotely open to selling in some form or fashion. They from 340, we had 3 verbal acceptances that didn't pan out. So these are kind of the same figures. We had, so these 2, they didn't end up coming through one way or the other. They just ghosted us, whatever. We had 5 signed contracts that proceeded, and then 2 signed contracts that we had to back out from a due diligence standpoint or whatever. But from like a conversion standpoint, you want to say just straight signed contracts. We had on the lowest tier of launch control, we had 7 signed contracts, and 5 of them we're either closing on or have closed on and are bringing them to market, and we've actually already sold one of them. So we bought it for $9,500, sold it for $25,000. Me and my wife were just going over the P&L this morning, and after all expenses and stuff, we had about $19,000 wired back after expenses. So this is a really big deal because this workflow that I'm wanting to highlight here, guys, this qualification, nurturing, all this stuff, this is, I think, the secret sauce to this working. My wife in Smarter Contact, it's not an apples to apples comparison because their pricing is different. Launch Control only charges you for total outbound text per month. All the back and forth is included. Smarter Contact is not, that's not the case. So Smarter Contact, my wife is on a tier where she has 100,000 outbound texts allotted, but that's a mix of outbound, like initial, marketing campaigns versus back and forth. Let's say that let's be super conservative and say that 60 to 70,000 texts, let's call it 70,000 texts, are initial outbound texts for her. Our averages over the last 2-3 years is 8 to 12 deals a month that we're getting through Smarter Contact. And let's call it the average 10, right? But let's say my wife's doing 70,000 total outbound texts. Me and what we're doing in Zion is so efficient and is working so well that we were able to get on the lowest tier of launch control, 10,000 outbound texts a month, we were able to get half of her deal volume. So if her average is 10, we got 5. That is absolutely massive, right? Because it clearly shows like there's an efficiency issue. This is why I wanted a lab to experiment and test things out. Funny story, and me and my wife's team, my wife has a VA named Beth, and then we have our acquisition manager, his name is Zoe. They were working the same lead because my wife accidentally hit the same area that we were hitting in Otero County, New Mexico. My wife and my VA were working, my wife's VA and Zoe were working the same lead. And we wanted to not have World War III in my house. So I'm like, Zoe, just offer super like cheap and give it to Asia and like, oh, bless it and move on, right? So Asia's team offered 25,000 and we offered 20,000. It was a double close situation. The seller verbally decided to walk away from $5,000 accepting my wife's team's offer and decided to go with ours because we had better connection and rapport. And there's a lot of nuance to this workflow, but a lot of people get screwed up in texting because one, they're trying to qualify and do a lot of back and forth via text. You want to use this as a screening filter to get to a phone conversation as quickly as possible. And then from there, you build a rapport and, even the aggressive like outreach. People think that if they leave a voicemail or send a text, like that's good. They're waiting, the ball's down the court of the seller. That's totally not the case. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. And there's a lot of finesse and a lot of nuance in the way that you do the calls that really lead to success. And I'm very excited. We started some new campaigns. We already got one signed contract for the new stuff, and then we have like 2 verbals and a bunch of leads that are coming through. So what we're doing is working. Here's the big kicker. Here's the big take home, and then we can turn it to questions or Jesse. Direct mail being expensive. I'm gonna tie it back to that. So I had the epiphany. The reason, one of the kind of the turning point or the milestone that made me go the direction of launch control as opposed to direct mail or anything else is right now in Land Maverick Society, based on the type of property we go after and our business model, etc. In most states, there are exceptions like Florida and other places, but in most states, you should see one deal for every 3,000 to 3,500 letters in our model. So with that, if I wanted to do 10 deals a month using direct mail, because the goal for us as a community in Land Maverick Society is help people get started, but then also help them scale. If I wanted to snap my finger and have everybody doing 10 deals a month in Land Maverick Society, we wouldn't have to at 3,000 to 3,500, let's call it 3,000 for easy math. We wouldn't have to send out 30,000 units of mail in order to facilitate that deal volume. 30,000 units of mail just for the cost of a stamp alone is going to be, even if you bought it in bulk, is going to be at best $15,000 to $20,000. Just for not talking about skip tracing, or like not skip tracing, but not talking about software and cleaning up your list and all, prop stream and other things. Just the cost of a letter, just a stamp. So that compared to what my wife has been doing the last several years, Smarter Contact, including the platform, skip tracing, everything except the cost of virtual staff. She's on a bad month spending $5,000 a month in marketing in order to facilitate an average of 8 to 12 deals a month. So it's just no comparison. Like the cost is so affordable when you're at the stage of, I'm going to commit to doing marketing every single month. Direct mail compared to texting, compared to anything, even cold calling, you could say is more expensive. Again, you can get it, instead of going through an agency, you can just bring on in-house cold callers, but still that's going to be a couple $1,000s, 4,000, you can easily get to $3 to $5 grand a month on that pretty quick, but then you have somebody full-time, on the phones calling people. So a little bit of a different medium, but all that being said, in terms of like barrier to entry, ease of use, like getting in there, getting after it, if you're at the stage where you can commit to marketing dollars per month, it's no question, texting is king.
Jaren.
And as long as it's available, I'm going to be riding this gravy train to the cows come home.
I love it. There's a few things you mentioned here, and I don't think anybody's asked this, but I want to quickly understand you talk about qualifying. What does that look like from a high level? Then can you just go into launch control and just show us and highlight to us where do you hang out inside of launch control? So qualifying and then inside of launch control. Can you break those two down?
Yes, sir. So, high level, I do not want to waste my time talking to somebody who is not open to selling to me at a discount. I mean, I use prettier language, but essentially, I am asking a very direct question where I say, in effect, hey, I'm an investor. So if you're wanting top dollar for your property, we can't talk to each other because we're not a good fit. Like I say it nicer, and there's a lot of nuance, but for sake of time, that's essentially the effect that I'm having to say, hey, I want to let you know who I am, how my business model works, and from there, see if we're a good fit from each other. That's literally how I'm setting up the entire conversation and focusing on rapport building. And again, there's a lot of nuances and stuff.
Is that all done through text?
That is all done through phone.
All through phone call. Okay, good.
Yeah. So I get to the point where I at least know they're open to selling by text. And then I do land.id, and then I reach out to them by the phone. And I'm telling you, that is the hill we're dying on, because there are so many people, so many thought leaders, so many other coaches, influencers, etc., that say, no, you need to treat every lead the same. That is absolutely not true. Like, sure, you need to, in an ideal world, all things being equal, have automatic follow-up and nurture leads, because these prospects have come into your ecosystem from a marketing standpoint, and you want to nurture them because eventually they might convert from a prospect to a lead because life hit them below the belt, and they're going to reach out to you because you were the first person to stay top of mind. This is why I love Jesse's automatic follow-up plan in Pebble, because all that stuff is all there except for ringless voicemail. So you want to email, text, send letters. I have it built out, like I'm still in the middle of it, but I have a automatic follow-up plan built out in various scenarios where I'm going to have 4 different purchase agreements with letters already queued up, and like fields within Pebble that I can put my offer 1, offer 2, offer 3, and it's going to automatically trigger. It's going to be fantastic and beautiful. So you definitely want that, but especially for beginners, you're in the spot where you're trying to go from no deal to your first deal. You're trying to get to deal consistency, like deals every single month. You don't have time to sit there and talk to some lady who is attached to their property in the hills of Tennessee who wants to, the property is worth $75,000, but they want $150,000 just because they like it so much. You can't waste your time. Like 80-20 is very real. And a big piece, like I have a 2-person team. Sure, I'm in the business from a high level, from a strategy standpoint. I go and do calls with people, but I can't afford, because of all the stuff I'm doing at Land Maverick Society, to actually be the main driver. So I got a 2-person team that's all based in the Philippines, running the entire business, and they only have so much bandwidth. So,
Yeah.
and that's another thing that a lot of beginners actually struggle with, or I see people who are struggling with texting. They'll be on a higher tier of launch control and they won't be able to handle the leads. So you got to get to, as a North Star principle, a conclusion on every single one of your prospects. Every single one of your deal records in Pebble needs a conclusion, whether it's a Nix or whatever it is. You just can't have anything falling through the cracks. I digress. So that was that. So the high level is that qualified leads are people who are open to entertaining an offer from you at a discount.
Gotcha. Okay, show us a little bit about launch control. I'm totally brand new in here. Let's say, where am I hanging out the most at, and where does some of those conversations happen?
Yeah, so inbox. So the vast majority of your life is in the inbox. There's to send out batches, like, so you have to set up a few things. So we have templates, right? Initial messages. This is where launch control shines like nobody's business. Every single outbound message template has 5 different variants, and each variant has spinner text. So you have like lots of different variables that they set up at random to make sure, again, that you don't get flagged as spam, that you stay compliant. So got to do some setup. The quick replies are, again, I got, call this lead screening, positive personas, negative personas. If we go negative, it's all of the people who are not now, not interested, already sold, wrong person. I did a lot of work consolidating all their like possible use cases or like response types that we're going to have. It's not perfect, but I think about 95% of the time we actually have a response ready to queue up, which is amazing. So positive personas is they have a different lot, interested, serious offer, right, for the right price, firm price, and then initial messaging or like further screening, lead screening is if it's like they mentioned an agent, they mentioned something where it's like, well, that's great. Well, I don't know if you're interested in selling or not, you know? So you got to like kind of figure that out. So what you set up a campaign, then you import a list. We use kind skip tracing for our go-to skip tracer in Land Maverick Society because it's super cheap and low commitment. 3 cents a record, and our delivery rates are fine, 70 to 90%. But they only provide phone numbers. So if you wanted to do like more robust things, I would recommend Versium for demographic, insights of things. But for just quick and dirty, that's what we use. Upload it, attach it to the campaign, and then we go up here to batches, and then I've already maxed out for the day. We hit new batches, and then you triggers up this little image, this little window, and you sit there and you click through it like a million times over. So then after you send out batches, people start responding to the inbox. So what we do is, so no, it's not for sale. So we're going to verify the number. Then I have a quick reply, we're not interested. So negative responses, not interested. So I have language that kind of softens them up and is unique. It's different. A lot of emojis, I say, hey, thanks for the reply regardless. Is it a concern about getting a fair price, or are you attached to the property? Sure looks beautiful. If it's no on this one, do you have any others? If not, do you know people? We reward well for referrals. And you'd be shocked at how many people say, yeah, I got my cousin Larry, he has one or whatever.
You crafted all these canned replies, is that correct?
Yeah, I did. I was a lot. ChatGPT helps, but yeah. And so all of these ones that are, various ones, these are all negatives because all the other ones, my team has already processed. But so this one is an okay, right? So if you're making it happen, so this one was already pushed. So what we do practically is whenever we upload a campaign in Launch Control, the same list we upload as a campaign in Pebble. We just don't mail to it, but this allows us to have all of the records right here at our fingertips. So whenever this gets pushed, so what is the name of this? Royce Perry. It may have been closed, but let's call Perry. So yeah, awesome. So this we can come in here and we can grab the APN number because we already uploaded it as a campaign, and it's very, very seamless. We just come up here, put the APN number, and voila.
And just a bit of context here. So Jaren has now done the communication, the marketing, then the qualifying, and then now push it over into Pebble. So now he can pull up the property record, see everything about it, maybe do your due diligence in here and so on and so forth. And you'll probably run the rest of the deal through this part of things. Is that correct?
Yes. So we use land.id because our data service provider doesn't oftentimes provide latitude and longitude. But if you guys do use latitude and longitude, this essentially replaces land.id. Like I've worked at it in the trenches. Like there's nothing in land.id really from a DD standpoint that you can't do using the map box, which is awesome. Huge value there. So yeah, so from here we would run through a 6-step checklist, make sure it's not in wetlands, that it's buildable, all that stuff. And then if it passes, then Mark who will make notes, and then we'll pass it to the qualification call. And then we'll proceed from there. So then yeah, I think that pretty much covers it.
Yeah, no, I'm going to take a pause here because we got some questions going on here. So Jaren, thanks for walking us through your insights with Launch Control and why you use Launch Control. And then what that sort of looks like inside of Launch Control. I think, Michael, you guys probably have a great onboarding process of what that looks like to kind of get people acquainted with the system. Jaren, you obviously spent a lot of time crafting out a lot of your hand replies. And you know, ChatGPT is a great resource for that. And then we move it over into Pebble to continue to move the property through the different stages to acquire that property. Now, let's jump into some of these questions here. Guys, if you have questions, go ahead and throw it in the chat. Melanie asked, have you any experiences with REI reply as well? If so, what are the differences in comparison to one another besides the higher price of launch control? I'm going to let Jaren speak about this, and I can speak about this afterwards.
Yeah, so I haven't personally, I think I've probably been inside of it once or twice. Pretty much all of the other mass texting providers don't optimize for compliance. They kind of just are like, all right, you're approved, have a free for all, good luck. Hopefully you don't get sued. Whereas launch control makes sure that they stay up to date. And so I don't have to worry about all those rules and regulations. I'm safe because I'm in a platform that makes sure that to the degree possible, they're compliant and safe. So yeah, I think that's the main difference is there's all these different ones. I mean, technically out of like Go high level, you can do mass text outbound stuff, but you have a lot of risk using those type of platforms because, well, I don't know again about RI reply or smarter contact, but saying specifically about GHL, because if they are very sensitive, if like you do one thing wrong or something gets flagged, your phone number is done and it can get worse from there. So
yeah, I will say that REI reply is built on GHL, which is Go High Level, and they will require or they use my gosh, Twilio. It is against Twilio's terms. It has been explicitly written that you cannot be doing that. So although they say you can, it doesn't mean you should be doing it. It is against their terms. And if you are loading up your phone number and you're integrating with your Twilio, you will get your account banned. So kind of keep that in mind.
Yeah, Jesse, I can speak to that a little bit too, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, like GHL Go High Level, for instance, it's a CRM first. So its texting component, which is plugged into Twilio, is really meant for more of like what you would get when you have texting inside of Pebble, for instance, right? When you're doing your core, as Jaren referred to, kind of your sniper follow-up, right? And you want to get those deals closed. It was meant for that very low volume client to client based texting. Launch control is a tool that enables you to do larger volumes and the larger volume of texting. But you know, I'm very much in line with Jaren on this. Like, I think that it's quality over quantity as much as you can, right? And so a lot of what we do in the background in terms of analysis of the traffic that goes out, in terms of how we distribute the messages through the carriers, all of that goes into trying to optimize as much as we can the response rate and the quality of responses coming in. And we obviously can't do anything about how many people in a given data set want to sell their land. That's person to person. But what we can do is ensure that if you're spending money on skip tracing, which is not cheap, even with the cheaper providers, and we want to make sure that every possible discovery call ready seller conversation, or every ready to get on the phone ready conversation is in your inbox, right? So that's what we're trying to optimize, not number of messages sent.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Michael. Ian asks, he private messaged me this, what's the best platform to get your phone numbers from? You said it earlier, Jaren. Was it what was it for skip tracing?
Kind skip tracing.
Skip tracing.
Yeah, it's cheapest. I do like Versium a lot too. I'm a fan of Versium.
Yeah.
But it's from a pure cost standpoint, you're paying like fractions of pennies when you go Versium, but you have to pay in bulk. So minimum buy-in is like $3,500. And it's like for 210,000 records. And you get a bunch of other demographic data and stuff. So if you wanted to geek out, you wanted emails and other stuff like how they vote, their estimated household income, like all that stuff, Versium is where you want to go. But if you just want phone numbers, 3%, 3 cents. And that's where we're at.
Awesome. Melanie here. I'm gonna share my screen. I do want to just give you guys a big flow picture so you guys understand what we're trying to make all the connections. So I've got a diagram I'll quickly show you guys here after. But got one more question here from Melanie. So would you say that texting, we would need to hire a VA to handle all the leads when starting out brand new? If so, what would the cost look like?
It's a very good question. And hey, Tara, I'm just noticing that. Good to see you. We talked a little bit a few weeks ago. So I want to say this in kind of two ways. So let me get out of Pebble real quick because it's buzzing over here. So objectively, if you're run tight on cash and you're trying to make the land business happen and you have time and context all makes sense, don't be lazy is the biggest response to that. Like, you can figure it out. If you had nothing else but no other goal except to get started and get to your first deal, you could totally figure it out, especially in the way that we do it, because I don't use any of the active filters. I don't do any tagging. I just literally use these quick replies and then push them to Pebble when they're qualified or when they're a prospect. The other kind of caveat to that, though, is like, oftentimes, recently, I have seen some people in my community get kind of mixed advice or kind of mixed ideology from various sources out there that are screaming at them, "Hey, what are you doing? You need to be on the phones. No hiring anybody. You need to be the number one person to figure it out." Well, this one particular couple comes to mind that have been active members in our community, and context really matters, because they got started in the land business for the sole purpose of using the land business to facilitate them being able to stay at home with their child, their firstborn, and to have more kids on the way. So there's no way that they can do their qualification call or their outreach calls 3 times a day, optimizing for when people are actually going to be picking up from 4 until 7. A lot of times entrepreneurs like that we hear about out there, they don't understand what it is to be married with kids. And a majority of us are married with kids. So there is no like shaming, or like, you can be just as aggressively like heels dug in, I'm going to make the land business happen no matter what. And in that context, if you needing to optimize for time, you have some money. And the case of these particular individuals, they actually had 20 years experience in corporate training and hiring people. So they're like actually better. Their unique selling proposition is actually, in their case, better to hire somebody right out the gate. So if that's you, like, take a breather. You do not have to be on the phones if you hate the phones. We are seeing a lot of people bring on acquisition managers and staff that are overseas, that are affordable and amazing. And I'm trying to shift the industry away from virtual assistant to virtual staff, because both Mark and Zoe are senior leaders in my company. They just happen to live in the Philippines. So all that being said, yes, if all things were equal, it would be easier. If you have to optimize, all things being equal, it's better to have somebody that you hire to work launch control, so that you can be freed up to land.id, qualification calls, etc. Yeah. But it depends on what you have to optimize for. You can optimize for time, or you can optimize for money. So awesome. That's my thoughts there.
Okay. Yeah. So Jesse, like, for just some metrics for people that are using the system new, if you're on like a lower package with launch control, you're probably going to only be able to send out 2, maybe 3 batches a day. So you're looking at maybe a 60 to 90-minute commitment, not including any seller calls that you're able to generate from those leads that you send out. So it is doable.
That's conservative too.
And it's conservative, yeah.
Yeah.
But per kind of what Jaren said, the one thing that I would add to it, it's a bit of a pet peeve for me, is when people because all of your money obviously is in those seller conversations. That's where you're earning money. And when people then take a VA they don't take the time to train, they don't take the time to really show them like how to provide value, as Jaren said, how to make it a value proposition, not a volume proposition, and they just plug in some $5 an hour solution. It's not a solution. It doesn't work. Right. So it has to, if going to go that route, it has to come with some education first.
I
Awesome.
cannot agree more than, yeah.
Okay. We've got a few minutes left. I do want to talk about this quickly here so people have a little bit of perspective because there's a lot of things going on. You've got launch control, you've got skip tracing, you've got qualifying, you've got team members. So just from a picture standpoint, I like to do this. This rocket ship represents launch control here. We just have to call it external application. Okay, so if you are doing something like this, typically, right, if we're doing direct mailing, nothing wrong with that. We're sending our mailing here to these property owners. They're going to come back. They're going to go into your inbox. That's where you're going to qualify. Then we will push them into a deal board to manage that. What you saw with Jaren is a little bit different. It's the track on the bottom here. If I can actually move my screen. Okay. This little rocket ship, let's just say that's launch control, right? You're going to do your texting there. You're going to do your qualifying. Jaren, are you actually qualifying while they're still inside of launch control before you push them into Pebble?
No, not, no, like I am filtering between them being a no versus like they're open to selling in some form or fashion.
Gotcha.
But not like, that's a big thing that people get like, people hate the phone. They get scared. Then they want to hide behind launch control and text people and be like, oh, I'm being productive. You need to get away from that. Just being honest, like you need to, if they are open to selling in any form or fashion, you send them a message, push them to Pebble. Even if they don't respond to that message, I don't care. I'm still calling them because they have now graduated into a prospect. They're remotely open to selling. We just need to now confirm if they're willing to sell at a discount.
Gotcha. Okay, great. And then, yeah, I mean, so you heard Jaren, he'll put them into buckets. He'll push to CRM right into the deal board. Now, the deal board is where we're just going to manage our repeatable processes. We're going to go through initial due diligence, like Jaren has a checklist for that. Then it's going to go to a next stage, so on and so forth, until we acquire that property. The data of that property lives there. But this is sort of a visual representation. Okay, Jaren, you went through a lot here. I'm going to go back to our slides here. And again, if you guys have any questions, we're going to go over about 10 minutes. I hope that's okay with you guys. I do want to make sure I get everything across to you guys. And certainly I will get, if you guys want that visual, you can rewatch it, screen capture it, or just email it. Email us. I'll get you a copy of that. Okay, cool. I want to leave you guys with a few things here. If you want to speak a little bit more to Jaren about texting, you literally can text him. Okay, he threw his number in the chat there, 219-419-7797. There is a lot of moving parts. How do we get our list in? How do we get out? I mean, you heard Jaren talk. He's got to craft those messages that go out. He's got, and I think launch control helps with that as well, with the varying messages. Why do we need varying messages, by the way, guys? Jaren?
I can answer
Michael?
that.
Yep.
Yeah, it's because we want to make sure that every recipient on your list is receiving a unique message. Imagine from the carrier's perspective, if suddenly within in a set market, 10,000 people receive the exact same message, all related to purchasing land. That's going to trigger red flags. And we don't want that because it could potentially bucket those messages as spam. So we're adding the features in that allow, at least on an algorithmic level, for each one of the recipients to have something unique.
Awesome. Okay, got you. Guys, I hope you got this down. Jaren runs his Land Maverick Society. So if you want to gain access to his stuff, his resources, get on a call with him. Again, text him Pebble texting to this phone number. It's in the chat right now. By the way, guys, if you guys still have more questions, throw it in the chat. We'll try to get to that. Okay?
Can I just chime in for a minute?
Absolutely.
Little, I don't know if it's a pitch, but testimony. Let me testify about what's happening. Since we started switching to the new model, this is the closest we've ever been as a community to a business in a box copy paste approach. There have been
that's a bold statement.
Yeah, it's a big deal. And a lot of it boils down to I give tribute to my business partner Elon. He's very good at systems, and we kind of work together, get best practices out of my head and then worked out into a system. So I'm pretty excited about it. We have seen, I'm trying to think just top. So there was a guy I'm trying to, there's so, like, so there is one person that comes to mind that came from another camp. I won't say any names to protect the innocent or lack thereof. But there are people who have come from other camps that came and they started working out this workflow, even in a different context without like texting. And we've been working together for about a month and a half, 2 months. And he has gotten 4 deals under contract. 2 of them are kind of like at a standstill. 2 of them are proceeding forward. There's a person I've been working with and their team. By the way, if you're talking about virtual staff, anybody who's a staff member or a partner or a spouse or whatever is an extension of your membership. So I routinely train them as well, and provide resources for them and all that. There was another gentleman who, or another individual who really struggled this year. They tried over and over and over various forms, probably turned over like, I don't know, 4 or 5 different acquisition managers. Like it just wasn't working. They implemented this new model. And now last that I heard as of last week, they had like 4 properties under contract. There's a gentleman that he wasn't technically a member, but we did like a little texting kind of training thing where we did like for 5 different 5 different training sessions. We did it for like a week and a half. He wasn't an actual Land Maverick Society member, but he wanted to learn texting, and he was doing direct mail, texting, ringless voicemail, cold calling, a bunch of stuff, and nothing was working because he was kind of all over the place. And then after we implemented the new workflow, the results that they're getting are insane. I remember jumping on the call last week with their team just to kind of follow up and see where they're at. And they're like, dude, this is incredible. Like, this is insane. And I don't know why people like diversify their marketing channels. Like I'm kind of, again, more 80-20, more like own one channel, dominate it. And then if you want to, maybe add a second one later. But a lot of people, kind of spinning their wheels, going in multiple different directions. And it seems, to be working. This is just off the cuff. If I would have known better, I probably should have like prepared proper like testimonials, maybe a couple of videos and stuff. But I just want you guys to know, like, this is actually working for real. Like I just literally this morning got, from September 4th until now, I got paid on the $19,000 was wire transferred after closing commissions, closing costs, agent commissions, and all that stuff, right? So and I'm nothing special. Like there's no magic sauce. I'm not as cool as Ajay Sharma. I can name drop him because he bought me this hat and he's one of my best friends. He's like, he's like the appeal, right? He's like sexy land guy. Definitely not me, right? Like I am a tortoise. That is why you see this image here. That I am the tortoise that slow and steady wins the race. I just held on for dear life until me and my wife finally figured it out. So if I can do it, you guys can do it too.
Awesome. Well, you heard it. Jaren, is somebody who has prepared systems. You can clearly see he's really got his systems in order. I mean, he knows Pebble better than I do. Okay, I'm going to have to start wrapping this up here, guys. Jaren, thank you very much for coming on to talk about texting. I hope this gives you guys a little bit more clarity on what texting is all about. It's been very gray these last since 2023. I remember the debacle that happened with texting and all that. Michael, thank you for coming on here to provide more clarity on that. Listen, if you guys want to get access to these bonuses that I mentioned, $250 mailing credit, you may not be mailing for properties, but you certainly will be mailing maybe when it comes to your contracts, maybe it comes to follow-up or your neighbor letters. I love selling my properties to my neighbors. If you want to get access to David's book, Systemology, a book that I follow in terms of building SOPs, those are just basically instruction manuals for your business. You get a copy from his garage. Okay, one onboarding coaching with us to get you started. And then also complete free access to Pebble for all of December. Head over to this, okay? But I got a couple more things here for you guys. Give me a couple minutes, okay? So open up your Pebble account at pebbleria.com/pricing to get access to Pebble and just email us back that you're part of Land Launch. To claim the bonuses, like the book, the cash, and all that, it's pebblerei.com/LL2025. If you need to take a picture of your screen right now, do it, because I gave you a bunch of links. Okay. You also had like links in the chat, like kind skip tracing. Okay. A couple more things here. The 27th. I don't know if Jaren's going to join us or not, but if you guys are
I'll be
looking,
there. I can
okay,
find
there
it.
you guys, you heard it. If you guys are looking to get something ready to rock and roll on before January hits, and you want somebody to look over your campaign setup, maybe inside of launch control, this is it. Okay, we're gonna have a few breakout rooms. I'm gonna be in one. I'm gonna be looking at campaign setup. Jaren might be looking at launch control stuff to make sure you're set up. You can have a quick chat, a quick overview of what you got set up. This will be on the 27th. Mark it on your calendar at 10 a.m. We're just going to open up the room. You guys are going to just join in, and there's going to be a few breakout rooms that you can just jump into. You can see how others are setting things up as well if you'd like. It's not a presentation. I'm literally going to ask people to come, bring their campaigns, whether it's inside of launch control, whether it's inside of Pebble, wherever it is. Maybe you are looking through your letter that you saw and you got from Michael yesterday, and you want to tweak it. I can go through that with you as well. Okay. All right. So that's on the 27th. Now, this just was thrown to me last minute here, but launch control has been generous enough to allow us to share with you guys. If you guys decide to move forward with launch control, you get 2 months. Sorry, by 2 months, you get 1 month free. This all expires on the 31st. Jaren's link is somewhere in there in the chat. If you go to landmavericks.com/launch control, is that sort of the link tied to launch control? Okay, I don't have it up on screen.
Yeah. And what's very cool is they assign you a personal onboarding specialist, so you're gonna be like pampered, VIP treatment.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Okay.
guys, sorry, Jesse, go ahead.
Yep. No, I'm just going to say here, again, if you want to take advantage of this, this expires on the 31st. Michael, you want to make a word about this?
Yeah, no, I was just going to back up what Jaren just said. Like, to me, the equation for success with texting is mentorship on the front side, great systems, and working directly with our team to make sure you're super optimized. And then just continuing to do things like this, continuing to educate. That'll give you guaranteed success. And
Awesome.
I'm going to post, I'm just going to find it real quick. I'll post Jaren's link in here as well.
Appreciate that. Guys, I have to wrap up here. I've got another call to hop onto. But tomorrow, it's with our friend, Alicia Jarrett, all on cold calling. Okay? I'm not saying that direct mailing is better. I'm not saying that texting is better. I'm not saying cold calling is better. Jaren is saying texting is better, though. But you guys, these are different channels. Okay? Stick to one. Pick one and stick to one. I've seen them all work. I've seen them all not work. Okay? So having someone like Jaren in your corner, having someone like Michael in your corner, having someone like Alicia in your corner makes a difference. I've been in this business. I've seen it long enough. People that actually make it typically have somebody in their corner. All right. I'm going to leave this with you guys. Please shoot us an email if you have any questions. There's a bunch of links. Hopefully you guys got it. If you're still confuzzled, shoot us an email. I'll see you guys tomorrow for day 3 with Alicia. Jaren, thank you so much for, spewing out everything in your head. I know there's a lot because you love this to death.
Yeah, man. Just like getting results for people. I like what works. So I appreciate
Awesome.
it. It's been an honor to come and share.
Thanks very much. Jaren, thank you. Michael, thank you. And thank you to all of you guys for joining. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Oh, I'm going to quickly announce this. Friday, February 13th, I've got a surprise guest. We are doing PPC, pay-per-click, paid traffic, paid advertisement. This team here works with some of the top wholesalers as well. So we're going to have them as a surprise guest on the Friday. So mark that down on your calendar. I'll talk more about it. Thank you so much, guys. Take care.
Later, guys. Bye.
Bye, guys.